Welcome, everybody, to Culture Shock Podcast. It's your boy, Pat Bayless, and I'm in the building with a very, 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 very special episode. Something that I've been wanting to do. Finally, I'm getting the chance to do it. Somebody that is very important to me, very instrumental to me even being here, and a very special episode for Mother's Day. For you mothers out here, you guys kind of get a behind-the-scenes look of really where I'm from and who helped raise me. So, introducing my mom. Mom, how are you?
I'm blessed, thank you.
A little nervous?
Very.
It's nothing. It's an easy episode. But I really wanted people to see really what the background of just who I am, because people give me credit for being this person, being that person. But they don't know who raised me, things of that nature. They've only heard stories.
Okay.
So getting started, give people that don't know you, obviously people are going to learn so much about you this episode, but the people that don't know you, just give people a little bit of a background behind you. Things of like, where are you from, household, like how many siblings, things of that nature.
Okay, so I was born in Queens, but I've lived pretty much all my life in Quorum. We moved out for a very short time to Ronkonkoma, but Quorum and Musket Ridge was basically where I grew up and also bought a house in the future. I have 3 other siblings. I am the oldest of 4. My what would I call her? Gladys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were the sports kids. We were, she's 3 years younger than me, and we did everything together.
So what is the age gap between you and the youngest? How many years is that?
I would say close to 20. Amory, don't kill me.
Yeah.
Close to 20.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's we had a big age gap, but with that being said, we are so close as sisters, all 4 of us.
That's amazing. Going back to you and Gladys, you lived in a 2-parent household, right?
Yes, we did.
What was it like early on, like growing up with you and Gladys being the closest in age? What was it like growing up in that household? Was it like back in that time? I'm not calling you old, but back in that time, different ways, different methods of parenting. So what was it like growing up in that household? Was it strict, or was it more like free for all? You guys just do what y'all want.
Okay, no. It was absolutely very strict. Very strict to the point where, I was the oldest, so I feel like it was the hardest for me. Gladys behind me. And I have some funny stories I can tell you about that. Mm-hmm. But yes, to your question, it was strict.
So dig into some funny stories. Give me a story. Give me a younger story, maybe with you and Gladys together, since y'all were really the closest growing up. Give me something maybe funny or something that was a little bit out there.
Oh, my goodness. Me and Gladys have so many funny stories. So Gladys, we were like besties. We really were. We played soccer together when we were young. We played softball together when we were young, continued to do it as we were older. But, we did have a lot of stories in between. Mm-hmm. Gladys she's an outgoing person. She doesn't care. She's just going to do it. A funny story was when we got our first 12-speed bicycles. That was back in the day when 12 speeds were and it was for Christmas under the tree, and we were so excited. With that being said, me and Gladys were in the driveway. That's when we lived not in Quorum. We lived in Ronkonkoma, and we were ready to ride. And these 2 girls came past and thought they were riding faster than me and Gladys. Gladys was like, well, nope, we're going to ride them. We were going to race. Long story short of it, it wound up being a lot after that. But we had a lot of fun riding, but Gladys, I have so many stories with Gladys.
Competitive.
Yes. Her in high school, just a lot.
Tell them, people could know this. Tell them what you used to do for Gladys when it came to school. Like the pretending.
Well, it's as the older sister, I could tell you right now, before her, I had nobody older than me. So when I cut out of school, there was nobody helping me. You know, if she did, well, I may help her out a little bit. Pretend to be the mom, maybe something like that.
On the phone call, that's one of the best stories I've heard. Was the phone call when the teacher called and you were like, "Yeah, I'll take care of it," pretending to be mom.
I was pretty much like, "Yes, I'm Mrs. Caro. No worries. I'll take care of my daughter. No problem." But yeah, no, it was our growing up was it was a lot of fun. But it was a strict household for sure.
Now, with being so separate in age, what's something that you've learned over time? Because, like, obviously, me and Travis, it's 8 years. So for me, it was always hard to connect right away because when I'm 16, he's 8, and he's going through something completely different. When I'm 24, he's 16. We're in completely different parts of our lives. So for Janice and Emery, what was that like to try to grab your head around not only doing whatever you were doing, but then being their big sister at the end of the day?
I have to say, like, with Janice, she's 10 years younger than me. Emery's got to be. Goodness gracious, Emery, don't get upset, but I know you're close to 20 years younger than me. But it was, how do I say it? We were all close at the end of the day. Janice, being 10 years younger, that's when I was in my age with Dad, and we would hang out and have fun, and and Janice was the one that Dad would, it's hard to explain. We had a lot of fun with her. It's hard, being 10 years apart. Back then, we didn't do, I wouldn't say many things all together. As a family, we did, but 10 years apart and almost 20 years apart. I will say I remember when I got pregnant with you and when you were born. Amory was a little bit.
She couldn't stand my ass.
Yes. She couldn't, because we were so many years apart, and when you were born, you kind of stole her thunder. But besides that, after that, our family life and our sisterhood is great.
Well, to put that into perspective for people that don't know, me and Emery are only 5 years apart. Yeah. So a lot of people growing up, it would be like, "Oh, who is that? That's my nephew." And they'd be looking at her like, "What? That's your nephew?" But we're only 5 years apart, so we really have a lot in common. Yeah. But I remember that. I mean, I remember there was a time where, I don't know, I must have been maybe 5, and maybe 5 or 4. And I remember she got so mad because I told on her or whatever, and she just took her nails like, and just wanted, She was so mad at me. She couldn't hit me, do nothing. She just gave me like a little, and I ran downstairs crying and telling on her. But now me and her are super close, which is amazing. But it's funny because you're completely right on that. I want to backtrack a little bit into right out of high school. Mm-hmm. So you're out of high school, and now you're working. What, at a young age, and you left the house early, right? You left the house at what age did you start living on your own?
Well, if I can be completely honest here, I didn't graduate from high school. Mm-hmm. I got my GED afterwards, and reason being is because I was honestly bullied in high school. I also, I struggled with a lot of insecurity, as many people probably do, but I did. So I left high school. With that being said, I took on a job right away at about 14 years old, 15 back in the day. And I've been working ever since hard. I've always worked hard, did what I had to do. And yeah, so I didn't graduate high school, but I did get my GED.
Did those insecurities in high school and being bullied, did working help take you away from feeling those things? Like, did you find yourself running from them things? Because a lot of people, when they deal with insecurity, when they deal with pressure or they have things that are on the horizon or something that's directly on their mind, they find escapes and stuff to take up their time. So was working at a young age, not only was it financially beneficial for you, but was it also a way to escape whatever was going on in your mind at that time?
Well, to be honest, I didn't have much of a choice because my mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, they basically said, which, you know what, I do respect them so much because when I did decide that I was going to drop out of high school, the grandpa basically gave me drop out, but you're going to get a job. And I did. And I worked job after job. And I'll never forget when I wanted my first car, and I believe it was a Trans Am, and grandpa, he co-signed, and they both always helped me out, but I always did what I had to do at the end of the day. So it did make me strong. They were strict, but I feel like their strictness made us stronger at the end of the day.
So you get out of high school, you're working, and now you find yourself pregnant. What was that, age 20?
Yes.
Age 20. So you find yourself pregnant at age 20. What was it like just being pregnant, like the 9 months? Like what dealing with me and your stomach, what was it like? Was it, because some people get sick, was it a clean pregnancy all the way through until the birth, or was it a whole bunch of ups and downs when it came to pregnancy?
So as far as getting sick, no, I did not. As far as wanting to eat everything under the sun, yes, I did. I gained a lot of weight, but when you were getting ready to be born, yes, I did have complications. I went into the hospital, and they told me I was already dilated. When I went in there, I'll never forget this. When I went in there, I was struggling, and they lost your heart rate a couple of times, and they were calling stat. And I just kept screaming and saying, you know what, if I lose him, I was going to lose it. So with that being said, you were an emergency C-section. When you came out, oh boy, I will not lie. You came out and your dad was sitting next to me, and your football, I'll never forget when your head came out, it was like a football.
That's why I got a head like this now. See, y'all,
you have a beautiful head.
That's why I got a head as well. Yeah.
Oh, so when you came out, I was like, oh my goodness. Wait, because what happened was you were stuck in my pelvis. You wouldn't go out and you wouldn't come back. So that's why you kept losing oxygen. And I was like, so at the end of the day, when you came out, you had your head on the top of your head, almost like a football. So I was like, oh my goodness, I have to be honest. So they put the hat on, and I was like, is it gonna? And they're like, no, don't worry, it's gonna, it's gonna go back. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, it's gonna go back. Thank you, Jesus. You're so handsome and amazing as you are today.
That's funny. That explains a lot then. So what was it like right after birth? Because for one, I have a question. That time when there were the moments of where you had to do the emergency C-section, did that feel like forever? Like
it sure did.
Or because sometimes it feels like a blur, and people say, "Oh my God, like that moment felt like a blur."
No.
That moment from when you started seeing the heart rate being lost to then me coming out, it felt like a forever thing.
It felt like forever. It was it was very scary, to be honest with you. It was truly scary. Like I said, I was just screaming at the doctors. I'm like, if I lose him, because your heart rate kept going up and down, you were losing oxygen. So it would go up, and then they would say, okay, you're good. And then all of a sudden, the beep, 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 and then they would call stat. They just kept trying to move you. So what happened, I had the epidural, and with the epidural, I couldn't move. And they were like trying to move me left to right, but because I was so numb from the waist down, I couldn't move. So it was really difficult. And that's when they rushed you in, and I had the emergency C-section. And here we are today.
That sounds like a scary thing
It
to
was
go
very
through.
scary.
That just sounds traumatic. All right, so now you have me, right? What was the battles that you dealt with just mentally being a young mom, having to work, being around parents that are also going to help you, but you're also still trying to be independent and be a mother. What like trials and tribulations did you feel like you dealt with there?
At that time, it was a little hard. I was with your father at the time. We separated, and so I became a single mother. Being a single mom, I will tell you, I had so much fun with you as a baby. I did have to be a single mom, and it was a little tough, but I did have a lot of family support. Going back and forth to work back then, that's when your grandmother and your grandfather were alive as well, and they adored you. So, I won't forget. Can I tell a funny story about you?
Of course. Yeah.
I won't forget. I was giving a little background. I was a nurse's aide back then, and I had to be at work, and I was going to drop you off at Grandma and Grandpa Bucky's house. So I would on my way, and I get pulled over by a cop. So he pulls me over, and you are amazing as you are talking. The cop pulls me over and says I'm rushing to work and everything else, and he pulls me over. He's like, he's not in a car seat. It was hard. It was hard, but at the end of the day, I would get to work and did what I had to do. Mm-hmm. But you were amazing. Like with the cop, you got me out of a ticket, out of, not in a car seat, no inspection. And I told him, I was dressed in my nursing clothes and I was on my way to work, and we got out of that one. At the end of the day, it was hard, but I had a lot of family support.
Yeah. So just giving people that are new to the pod that might be watching this episode for the first time, there's going to be things that we reference in this podcast that people may not know. So for everybody that doesn't know, so for me and Travis that we talk about, we're brothers, but we have two different dads, right? So one is a biological father, and then one I actually call dad. So that people, when you're listening to this and you're like, what is she talking about? You just said they separated. That's just so you guys know a little bit of background, period. So now we're getting to this where you meet to me, is my dad, right?
100%.
So you meet him when I was about 2. What did he do for you to then help you as not only just a parent, but a person?
Everything. He came into my life. It was kind of love at first sight. He walked up the walkway where I was living, and if I can say the truth, he was hot. I had you, and he loved you. Like, he used to, like, when I would yell at you, he would tell me, don't yell at him. Like, what do you got? And I'm like, well, because he's, if I had said something to you, he would defend you, like, since little.
Right.
And I'll never forget our very, very first date was you having like 103 fever. It wasn't even a date, but to me, it was, because you had 103 fever. We were on the phone, and we really, truly weren't 100% together. But I told him, I said, I have to go. I said, I have to take him to the hospital. And he told me, he said, come pick me up. He's like, and I'm going to go with you. And I said, you don't have to. I said, I'll call you. And he said, no, come pick me up. And he went with me and sat with me for hours, as you know, when you go to a hospital with a kid, and stayed with me till the end of the night. And honestly, our very first kiss was with you in the back seat after you
Trifling. Trifling. No, I'm just kidding.
We didn't do anything else but a kiss. That was it.
That's funny.
But, sealed it right then and there, pretty much, and moved.
Yeah.
Started.
Yeah. So that grew into obviously a marriage and a long time together. A lot of good times, just being in the house, a lot of good times together. Then you guys, 8 years after I'm born, you have Travis.
Yes.
What was that like? So you're parenting for the first 8 years. You're learning as you're going. I could even speak for that now as a parent. I'm still learning with my son. It's like, as you see me deal with the ups and downs, but you go through, trying to learn with me. And then you're going into this realm of, I have another kid on the way. Now it's time to reset and go back to age 0 and do it all over again. What's something that you did a little different with Travis that you may have not done with me from the start?
A little something that I did with Travis. I honestly don't think I did anything different with Travis. I think I have been the same mom with both of you. I could be a little spoiling, but as a mom, when you're a mom, that's what you do. So I don't feel like I did anything different. With Travis, I will say, I have my story with you and the struggle that I had with you when you were born. With Travis, I was trying to get, I was trying to have a baby, another baby. And it took a long time. And, I did pray to Jesus and I did ask him. I said, I want another child. And, I did say to him, I would bring him up on things of God and I want another child. And it was a struggle, because I had a hard time having both, so then all of a sudden I found out I was pregnant, and Travis, another one. I gained another 50 pounds and, and then, with both of you, I'm blessed. That's all I can say as a mother. I am truly blessed with both of you.
Absolutely. So with Travis and me, obviously, is different time periods of learning, I would say, right? Especially me being a teen, and then, like I said, we just had an 8-year difference. So, I could understand where it's got to be difficult. I can't even imagine, but it's got to be difficult making sure I'm good and not doing nothing wrong at 16, 17, 18, and just making sure Travis is doing homework, right? But then we get into the later parts. So now I'm 20 something and he's 16. Did you ever feel like, how do I want to say this? Did you ever feel in a way like we never grew up? And when I say that, I mean you always felt like you owed us the protection. Because as a parent, I feel like you always want to protect your kids. But as we grew up and now the years that we've gone, have you still always felt like I need to protect them, even when it may be a little bit overbearing?
You're asking me that question 100%. And I can say that that's something that I need to work on even still to this day. I'm 100% overbearing, and it's out of complete love. And it's very hard as a mom, and I will say this for all the mothers, for Mother's Day, it is very hard when you love your children and you never know what it feels like until you become a mom. And although they don't understand, because with my own mom, I don't understand. She can drive me crazy at times too, like I drive you and your brother crazy. And that's a fact. But, there's a lot of times that I reflect now with my own mom that I'm like, wow, I'm really like her. And wow.
Yeah.
That's all I could say. You never know until your mom. You're always going to protect and want the best for them, want to know where they are and what they're doing and so forth. But, you guys are a lot older now, and I'm trying.
Right. Exactly. And I give you grace for that. I mean, you have truly tried. I would say that. I remember I told a story to one of my friends on the podcast about having a Nextel back in the day. And I remember the first
boy.
Nextel.
That was my favorite phone.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. And I was telling him how I'd be walking and you would just check up on me. And always had that first beep. It'd be like bleep, bleep. And then you would hear the voice. And I always knew who it was because I wasn't talking to no girls at the time. So I always knew who it was. And I remember hitting a button. There was like a little button that you could hit while you were talking. And it would just
like
go.
A walkie-talkie.
Yeah, but if you hit the button, it would go beep. So I remember you would say, and I would walk away. And then I'd answer you. So yeah, I definitely do give you grace for that. Let's deep dive into something that's a little hard to talk about. You know, there's been a transition in your life at a later age. You know, you spend 20. How many years were you married? 20.
We met in 1995, and it was love at first sight. Got married in 1996.
Okay, so 20. Shoot, I'm trying to do the math.
Yeah, you know, it's
Almost 20-something years.
Yes.
Yeah, so a long time.
I can't, the math, like
20,
after
23 or 24,
passed,
something like that.
It's more than that.
Yeah, obviously I'm not having a good math day, but with that, that's a lot of time spent. I mean, I've been in a relationship maybe the longest 5 years. That's a lot of time spent with somebody. You went through stuff that people that have went through similar things that you have gone through, and probably could testify their story of dealing with somebody that's pretty much dying in front of you. You know, cancer riddling them and stuff like that. Somebody that you see one way, and they start to deteriorate. You know what I'm saying? And you're trying to hold down yourself, hold down the household, hold down the person that you care about, and hold down your children. That's a lot to ask for out of anybody, you know? But you're not doing this at, you know what I'm saying? You're doing it at an older age, just in my opinion. But also at a younger age, because 50 years old is young, you know? So what would you tell people that really don't understand that, can't really grasp that? What can you explain that time period like?
It was, for me, it was autopilot. I can't lie. The day that Dad got diagnosed, as you remember, and Travis can remember, it was a day that I'll never forget, and it's a day that I don't want to remember either.
Right.
But it was autopilot, and you just have to do what you have to do. You know, Dad's wishes were to pass away at the house when he was diagnosed with 4th stage cancer. You know, my mission was to make that happen. And for you guys to be, you know, okay, like you guys to be able to have time with him. Dad, as you know, was very private, and he wanted to do everything. I have to say, I need to move back a little bit. When he got diagnosed, your dad, there's no words for him. He's amazing. He took everything and handled it like no other would. And I'm sure there's so many other people out there that got diagnosed, and, you know, but just the strength that he had, the faith that he had, that did help me go through it, because, you know, it was hard to do everything, but he always, honestly, he always thought about me. Like when I had to go to work, or if I had to do something, you know, don't worry about me, I got it. So I was able to do what I had to do. Me, I was on autopilot, and I was just focused. Like I just have to go, I have to call this doctor, I have to call that, I have to, you know, it was absolutely not a lot. I thought that hospice is amazing, and I'm not going to say anything about hospice, but being the first time for me, you know, I had to give him medication and I thought hospice was a little different. But with that being said, you know, it was
tough period.
Hard, but we got through it.
Right. That's one of the biggest things I always tell people. Like when I talk about you, I talk about, you know, your kind heart, this, that, the third. But it takes a lot of strength to, again, deal with what you did, and then also move on and be able to continue to work, be able to continue to be a mom, be able and not sit on autopilot in a way. Now, obviously, you had to unpack things in so many different ways, right? Over the years, it doesn't just go away. The scars don't go away. The feeling doesn't go away.
It'll
Those
never
things
go
stay.
away.
But what I'm saying is you didn't stay on autopilot. A lot of people take autopilot and go down.
Yeah.
The autopilot just, and the battery starts to die. In a way, whether it was from running or not, you went up. Where a lot of people, I'm not going to lie, I mean, even me, myself, I was worried for you. You know what I'm saying? Family was worried for you because at the end of the day, that's all you know. Mm-hmm. When you're with somebody for that long, it's all you know. Yeah. So we were all worried for you. We were like, I don't know how she's going to react. We don't know. There's people that sadly in this world, they die from a broken heart right after, right? Yeah. So it was just one of those things where, I don't think we were worried about that part, but we were just worried about, will you just not want to go to work anymore? Will you just not want to do this, not want to do that? So, you started working out, losing weight, moved out, sold the house, got a different place, you know what I'm saying? And you move forward. The next thing that you did, which was very good, is you went to, I don't know if you mind me disclosing it, but going into therapy and actually doing things like that, working on yourself, which is amazing. And then not only on top of that, which I want to get into a little bit, is being a grandmother. Mm-hmm. Johan being born in 2018 is before he even gets diagnosed. You still being a loving grandmother that's focused on him, because, again, that's another thing. So that just all that into play is just a big, big testament to who you are and what you're trying to do. So now you meet this guy who is amazing, I would say, is an amazing person. A lot of people, when they think about people, they're like, ooh, who would I want my mom or my dad to be with after? And they're scared and it's that, the third. But I would have to say Eric is an amazing person.
Absolutely.
So I want to know, what does Eric mean to you since everything that has happened? Because, God's grace, he's given you somebody to not replace, but to help heal, to not sit. I don't look at it as he's sitting in his spot, right? Because that's what some people would do. I'm just not saying you would say that. I'm saying people would think that, like, well, this person is replacing this person.
Right.
No, like, this person is stepping into a new chapter of Christina. Yes. This person is stepping into a new chapter. So this new chapter of your life, what has he meant to it?
He means a lot. He, it's a funny story. We would have never thought would be together. But God, I do truly feel, brought us together. I think your dad, I think Lance, definitely brought us together. He is an amazing person. He is an amazing partner, together. We are opposite, but you know what? Opposites attract. And he has brought so much, like, positivity into my life. Where I could be negative sometimes because of everything I've been through, he can be positive. Where he's gone through his things and he's negative, I will be positive. So he's been a great asset, and I think I don't know if it's called an asset or not, but into our family. His family is great. He loves, we love each other's family, so at the end of the day, I think that there's really no words, besides that we were meant to be together at this time in the season.
Yeah. No, that's I believe the same thing. I truly do. I think it's not many people are that lucky. You go from dad to a person that is amazing as well, right? Yeah. Some people aren't that lucky. Some people are alone for the rest of their lives, are still searching, and don't know really what they're looking. And just so
you know, like it's so weird because none of us was searching, and then it just happens. So just the same thing with that. Like it just God has His plan, and after that, you just go.
So what? One of the things that I brought up was Johan. Obviously, what does your first grandson mean to you on an everyday, and how does he help you constantly be a better person and want to grind to be a better person?
Johan, I have to say something. Everybody always says that, when you have a grandchild, it's different than having your own child. And I never experienced that until Johan was born. When Johan was born, and the first time I seen his face, it is absolutely different. I love you with all my heart. But with that being said, there is a difference. The minute that he walks in the door and says grandma or anything, my heart, it does change you. The answer to your question is hard because he means everything to me. And he is the most amazing. And I know everybody has amazing grandchildren, but I have to say, I do have an amazing grandson.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Being in your 50s now, life is always precious, right? But being in your 50s, dealing with what you've had to deal with, the traumas that you had to go through, those things. What is those things that you look forward to now every single day? Being in your 50s, just what is life to you every single day? What's there to look forward to?
Retirement.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
I will say retirement.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am blessed, like I said, with so many things. God has put so many things in my path, good and hard. But retirement, living life, ever since Dad passed, I was always afraid back then to travel, to get on a plane, to do something, that would be out of my
Comfort zone.
Yeah, out of my comfort zone, out of my box. So after Dad passed, it kind of brought something into my heart. Wow.
Yeah, the lights went boom.
Yes, crazy. Is to just let go, stop being so stressed, which I really, really, that's, I have a hard time with,
Right.
letting go and letting God, because I'm just a control person, and that's just the way I am. I always feel like I need to be in control. I overthink. I'm a people pleaser. A lot of those things stress me out, but just going and traveling and enjoying life, basically. That's what I'm looking to do in the future.
What would you say before we get out of here? What would you say to all of the mothers for Mother's Day? What would your message be to them just going forward for a lot of these mothers, whether it be young, old, whatever? What would your message be to these mothers?
Enjoy Mother's Day. Enjoy your children. Enjoy your life. Enjoy your family, because you never know what tomorrow holds. But you know what? As a mother, you'll always be a mom, and it's okay. And just have a beautiful, wonderful Mother's Day.
I love that. The one thing that I would say to you is that you always had, from the beginning, since I've been born, you've always been blessed in a certain type of way. I've always noticed it. Whether you've gone through stuff good or bad, I've always noticed you've been blessed at the end of it. But I've always noticed that you've been giving. A lot of things, especially in the Bible, they always talk about giving without expecting something back. And you are one of the only people that I truly know that are built like that. That you don't give to receive. You just give because you want to. You provide because you want to. You love because you want to. It's not because you want something in return. And people that see this, I hope that they feel that, because that's truly what you embody. With it being Mother's Day, I've always made you a video and stuff like that. So I'm not going to do that this year. I'm just going to tell you to your face, Mom, you're a great mom, an unbelievable person, a great grandma, a hardworking woman that I appreciate, that I don't tell you enough. But people, me, your family, sisters, your parents, they all love you. They all appreciate you. You're a person that they all look up to, including myself. And, I want you to have an amazing Mother's Day.
Thank you.
We do love you. Johan loves you. And we are just so appreciative that you're here and just having a blast and being able to be on the podcast. And I just want to thank you for personally being here, because it does mean a lot that you were able to do this and be on here.
I'm not gonna lie, it was hard. It was definitely hard. But I love you even more. I love your brother even more. I love Johan even more, and my entire family. So, and I appreciate all of your support and all my family support, and I just love being a mom
Absolutely.
and a grandma. I'm just blessed.
Absolutely. And mothers out there, continue to have a great Mother's Day. We hope you enjoy this episode. We love y'all. Continue to inspire your children and even the people around you. We're very thankful for you guys. We love you guys. And with that being said, that's another episode of the Culture Shock Podcast. We out of here.